The US House of Representatives have voted to block President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada.
The resolution passed by a narrow 219 to 211 vote, with 6 Republicans breaking ranks to join Democrats in the opposing the president's trade policy. Now, the resolution brought by Democrats seeks to terminate the national emergency declared by Trump that he used to impose tariffs on Canadian imports. Lawmakers critical of the move argue that the tariffs have strained relations with a close U.S. ally and also raised costs for American consumers and businesses.
President Trump responded swiftly and forcefully to the House vote, saying the move would undermine America's trade leverage and hand an advantage to other countries in a series of statements. Trump said Canada has taken advantage of the United States on trade for many years.
The president insisted that tariffs make a win for U.S. easy, arguing that the policy has strengthened both economic and national security. He warned that rolling back the tariffs would weaken that advantage and said no Republican should be responsible for destroying this privilege.
All right, people. Welcome back to Dr. John Podcast. Trump's economic war with Canada backfired this week when the Republican-controlled House voted 219 to 211 to overturn his tariffs, with 6 GOP members crossing the aisle. Trump retaliated by threatening those Republicans on Truth Social, warning they'd seriously suffer in primaries, an open attack on his own party for defending constituents crushed by his trade war. He does not care about the farmers in Nebraska getting hammered. He does not care about the auto workers in Michigan watching their supply chains fall apart. He does not care about the small business owner in Colorado who just got slapped with a surprise $20,000 tariff bill and has no idea what her costs will be next week, because everything changes based on whatever gets posted on Truth Social that morning.
Trump also took aim at the Republicans who broke ranks, suggesting their vote was a betrayal of the party's economic agenda. He warned that there could be political consequences for lawmakers who he claimed sided with Democrats over U.S. industry.
The White House maintained that the president acted within his legal authority by using emergency powers to impose the tariffs and insisted that Congress is attempting to weaken the executive's ability to respond quickly to economic threats. President Trump has already warned that he would veto the resolution if it reaches his desk.
The House vote marks a significant moment of congressional pushback against the president's use of emergency powers to drive trade policy. The resolution now heads to the Senate, where its future remains uncertain. Even if it clears the upper chamber, supporters would need a 2/3 majority in both houses to override a presidential veto, a major political hurdle.
All he cares about is loyalty. Blind, total, absolute loyalty. And if you do not give it to him, he will try to end your career. And that is not even the wildest part of this week. Right before that vote, Trump went on Truth Social and threatened to block the opening of a brand new bridge, the Gordie Howe International Bridge, a bridge that Canada literally paid for out of their own pocket. A nearly $5 billion project, a bridge that connects Detroit to Windsor, Ontario, a bridge that would create thousands of jobs on both sides of the border and cut crossing times by 20 minutes for truckers hauling goods back and forth. A bridge that Trump himself endorsed back in 2017 when he was in his first term and called it a vital economic link between the two countries. And now he wants to block it from opening until Canada gives the United States half ownership of the whole thing. A bridge they paid for. He wants half of it for free because he feels like it. You cannot make this up. This is not how you treat an ally. This is not how you negotiate with a friend.
The outcome could have broader implications for executive authority and US-Canada trade relations.
Now, separately, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to decide on the legality of President Trump's tariffs, as federal tariff revenue has surged more than 300% year-on-year. Customs collections spiked in January, helping to narrow the monthly budget deficit and provide a boost to Treasury revenue. A ruling against the administration could force billions of dollars in refunds, making the outcome crucial for both fiscal planning and trade policy. Until the decision, tariff collection remains a flashpoint in the broader debate over trade policy and their impact on the U.S. economy.
This is how you pick a fight with your next-door neighbor and then act shocked when they stop lending you their lawnmower and start hanging out with the guy across the street instead. And here's the thing, Canada is not backing down, not even a little. Prime Minister Mark Carney is out there on the world stage telling everyone that Canada does not exist because of the United States, that Canada thrives because Canadians are Canadian, and he is rallying other countries to push back against what he is calling economic coercion and intimidation by larger powers. He did not say Trump's name, but everybody in that room knew exactly who he was talking about. Trump's own strategy, his whole tough guy approach, is literally pushing our closest trading partner into the arms of China. Canada just cut a preliminary deal with Beijing on electric vehicles and farm products, and Trump absolutely flipped out about it. But guess what? The only reason Canada is even talking to China right now is because Trump has been kicking them in the teeth for over a year straight. He created the very problem he is now screaming about. He pushed Canada away and then got mad that Canada started looking for new friends. The polls are showing that the American people are not buying any of it. 6 out of 10 Americans disapprove of his tariffs. According to Pew Research, his overall approval is sitting in the low 40s at best and underwater by double digits in most polling averages. His approval on the economy, the one issue he was supposed to dominate on, has been tanking for months. Independent voters, the ones who actually decide elections, are running away from him on this issue faster than anything else. And we are 9 months out from midterm elections where Republicans could very realistically lose the House. So yeah, this is a big deal. This is not just about Canada. This is not just about tariffs. This is about whether the president's signature economic policy is collapsing in real time while his own party starts to crack wide open. To really understand how we got to this bonkers moment, you have to back up and look at the whole arc of what Trump has been doing to Canada since he started his second term. Because this is not a one-off outburst. This is a pattern. And the pattern is threaten, escalate, back down a little bit, then threaten even harder, and hope nobody notices that the first threat did not actually work. It started back in early 2025 when Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian goods using something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is a law from 1977 that was never meant to be used for trade wars. He basically declared that fentanyl and illegal immigration coming from Canada was a national emergency and used that as his legal excuse to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian imports. Look, people can argue about border security all day long, but let's be real here. Canada is not Mexico. The northern border is not where the fentanyl crisis is coming from in any serious way. And everybody with half a brain knew this was really about leverage and political optics, not about actual national security. But he did it anyway, because that is what he does. He finds a legal loophole, jams through whatever he wants, and then he dares people to stop him. Then over the course of 2025, he just kept cranking up the heat. He raised tariffs on some Canadian goods to 35% by August. He threatened to decertify Canadian-made Bombardier business jets unless Canada certified American Gulfstream planes. He kept calling Canada the 51st state, like it was some kind of hilarious joke that everyone was supposed to laugh at. And he just generally treated the entire country and its people like subordinates instead of a sovereign nation and one of our oldest allies. And here's where it gets really interesting. All of that pressure, all of that bullying, all of that chest-thumping tough guy nonsense did not make Canada more cooperative. It made them more independent. It made them dig in. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who replaced Justin Trudeau and came in as this serious, no-nonsense former central banker who ran the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, started charting a completely different foreign policy course. He went to Beijing, he sat down with Chinese leaders, he cut a preliminary trade deal where Canada would let in up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles at a lower tariff rate. And in return, China would drop tariffs on Canadian canola and farm products. Then he went to the World Economic Forum in Davos and gave this speech where he basically told the entire world that we are living through a rupture in the global order and that middle powers, countries like Canada, need to band together to resist economic coercion from larger countries. He warned about nations using tariffs as leverage and supply chains as weapons. He did not say Trump's name, but everybody in that room knew exactly who he was talking about. And Trump knew it too, because he immediately got petty about it. He revoked Canada's invitation to join his so-called Board of Peace. And then on January 24th, he dropped the hammer, a threat of 100% tariff on all Canadian goods if Canada finalized its trade deal with China. 100% on everything from the country that is our second biggest trading partner on the planet. The country that sends us 60% of our crude oil imports, 85% of our electricity imports, the largest foreign supplier of steel and aluminum and uranium to the United States. Nearly $3 billion worth of goods and services crossing that border every single day. And he wants to put a 100% tariff on all of it. And here's the part that makes you want to bang your head against the wall. Just 1 week before that threat, on January 16th, Trump was asked by reporters whether he was worried about Canada getting closer to China. And he said, and this is real, this actually happened, that's what he should be doing. It's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that. 7 days. He went from that's a good thing to 100% tariff on everything in 7 days. That is not strategy. That is not deal making. That is chaos. That is a guy reacting to whatever he saw on TV that morning. And the chaos kept rolling because then on February 10th, he went after the Gordie Howe Bridge, this massive infrastructure project that has been under construction since 2018, that Canada financed entirely at a cost of almost $5 billion that was negotiated under a Republican governor in Michigan named Rick Snyder, that Trump endorsed in a joint statement with Justin Trudeau back in 2017. And that was literally weeks away from finally opening and creating thousands of jobs for people in Detroit and Windsor. Trump went on Truth Social and said he would not allow the bridge to open until Canada gave the U.S. half ownership and treated America with fairness and respect. Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin called it economic sabotage against Michigan. Senator Gary Peters said Trump was punishing Michiganders for a trade war the president himself started. And here is the detail that should make everybody's blood boil. Even Rick Snyder, the Republican former governor who built the original deal, came out and said the only real winner from blocking this bridge would be the billionaire Moran family that owns the competing Ambassador Bridge and has spent years and over $33 million trying to kill the Gordie Howe project so they can keep their private toll monopoly on the Detroit-Windsor crossing. Michigan voters already rejected the Moran family's ballot proposal to block this bridge back in 2012 by a margin of 59 to 41. The people spoke. They wanted this bridge. And now Trump is trying to do through presidential threats what one rich family could not do through the ballot box. That is not putting America first. That is putting one politically connected billionaire family first. Then Carney called Trump, explained the whole situation, that the bridge is jointly owned by Canada and Michigan, that American steel and American workers helped build it. And Trump apparently told him to work it out through the U.S. ambassador. So even his own threat kind of deflated within about 48 hours. But the damage was done. The uncertainty was out there. Businesses on both sides of the border were left wondering if this man would blow up the most important trade corridor in North America just to post something tough on social media. And then came the House vote on February 11th. Democrats had been trying to force a vote on a resolution to end Trump's Canada tariffs for months, and Speaker Mike Johnson had been blocking it with procedural tricks. He passed rules that prevented any tariff votes from coming to the floor, but that rule expired in January, and when Johnson tried to extend the ban through July, 3 Republicans voted with Democrats to kill it. Johnson's razor-thin one-vote majority crumbled right in front of him. Thomas Massie from Kentucky, Don Bacon from Nebraska, and Kevin Kiley from California said, "No, we are not going to let leadership hide behind procedure anymore." When the actual tariff vote came the next day, 6 Republicans crossed over. Those 3, plus Jeff Hurd from Colorado, Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, and Dan Newhouse from Washington. The vote was 219 to 211, with only one Democrat, Jared Golden from Maine, voting against it. And these Republicans who crossed over were not just quietly slipping their votes in and hoping nobody noticed. Jeff Hurd went on the record saying he talked to farmers and manufacturers and steel companies in his district, and they all told him the tariffs were hurting them. Don Bacon straight up asked why Congress cannot stand on its own 2 feet and act like an independent branch of government instead of just doing whatever the president tells them to. That takes real guts in this political climate where Trump will try to destroy you for disagreeing with him even once. Now look, the vote is symbolic mostly. Yeah, Trump can veto it, and there is nowhere near a 2/3 majority to override that veto. Johnson called it a fruitless exercise and said it would not change anything. But that misses the point entirely. It is not fruitless. It is a signal. It is a crack in the foundation. It is Republicans going on the record in an election year saying that this trade war is bad policy and it is hurting real people. And Democrats have already unlocked the procedural power to force more votes on tariffs against Mexico, on the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, on the whole trade agenda. This is not going away. The pressure is only going to build from here. The economic reality is stark. Canada is the #1 export market for 36 U.S. states. Nearly $3 billion in goods and services cross that border every single day. We are talking about a trade relationship so deeply intertwined that some auto parts cross the border 5 or 6 times before they end up in a finished vehicle sitting on a dealership lot. A 100% tariff on Canadian goods, if Trump ever actually pulls the trigger, would be catastrophic for American consumers and workers. Analysts estimate it could bump inflation by 1.5% to 2% almost immediately. Energy prices would spike because we import 60% of our crude oil and 85% of our electricity from Canada. Auto prices would jump. Existing steel and aluminum tariffs already add an estimated $1,500 to the cost of every American-made car, and that number only goes up from here. And it is not just abstract numbers on some economist's whiteboard. A small outdoor recreation company in Colorado told their congresswoman they got hit with a surprise $20,000 tariff bill out of nowhere, and they cannot plan because they literally do not know what their costs will be from one week to the next. Their costs depend on whatever gets tweeted out that day. That is insane. That is no way to run a business, and it is absolutely no way to run the largest economy in the world. The politics are where it gets really dangerous for Trump and the Republican Party. His approval rating is underwater and it keeps sinking. The CNN poll of polls has him at about 39% approve and 59% disapprove. Pew Research found his overall approval at just 37% in late January, down from 40% when he started his second term. The AP NORC poll from early February had him at 36% approve and 62% disapprove, his worst number in 3 months. On tariffs specifically, 6 out of 10 Americans disapprove, according to Pew. Among independent voters, roughly 60% say tariffs have hurt the economy and their personal finances. His approval with young voters under 30 has collapsed to just 25% in the latest polls, down from 52% positive when he started his second term just a year ago. That is a 30-point swing among an entire generation in 12 months. And 2 out of 3 Americans say they are very concerned about the price of food and consumer goods right now. Here is the number that should keep Republican strategists up at night. Trump's net approval, meaning approve minus disapprove, is sitting around -13 in most polling averages. Historically, when a president is below 50% heading into midterms, his party loses seats. That has happened every single time going back decades. 1982, 1994, 2006, 2010, 2018, same pattern every time. And Trump is not just below 50, he is hovering near 40. That is deep danger territory. And the people running Republican campaigns in swing districts know it, which is exactly why you are seeing members start to break ranks on tariffs. They can read a poll. They can hear their voters. They know what is coming in November. The courts are another massive factor that people are sleeping on. The Supreme Court is currently weighing whether Trump even has the legal authority to impose these tariffs through emergency powers. A federal appeals court already ruled last August that the Emergency Powers Act does not actually give the president the right to slap tariffs on countries. If the Supreme Court agrees, and multiple reports say the justices seemed skeptical during oral arguments, then Trump's entire tariff regime could get struck down. That ruling could come any day between now and the end of the court's term this summer. Speaker Johnson used this as his argument for why Congress should not vote on tariffs. Just let the court handle it, he said. But Congress did not listen. And if the court rules against Trump, it would be the single biggest legal blow to his economic agenda since he took office. His whole trade war could unravel with one decision. The Canada relationship itself is the part that really gets me, because Trump's whole theory was that maximum pressure would bring Canada to heel. That if you squeeze hard enough, they will come crawling back and accept whatever terms you dictate. But the opposite has happened. Canada is diversifying away from America. Canada went to China and cut a deal. Canada is building new trade relationships around the world. Canada boosted its military spending so it does not have to rely so heavily on American defense. Canada's Prime Minister is on the world stage rallying rallying other nations to resist American economic bullying. Every single threat Trump makes pushes Canada further away. And the irony, the deep, painful irony, is that Trump created the very conditions he is now complaining about. He pushed Canada into China's arms by punishing them for a year straight and then got furious when Canada actually started exploring other options. You do not get to kick someone in the teeth every day for 12 months and then throw a tantrum when they start looking for a new dentist. The midterm elections are 9 months away, and they are shaping up to be a referendum on exactly this kind of stuff. Democrats only need a handful of seats to flip the House. Republicans have a majority so thin that they cannot even pass their own procedural rules without members peeling off. If the economy stays wobbly, if tariff pain keeps showing up in grocery bills and gas prices and car payments, if Trump keeps making threats that blow up in his face and embarrass his own party, swing district Republicans are going to be in real trouble. And Trump threatening to primary anyone who defies him only works if voters in those districts agree with him. And right now, the polls say they do not. Nearly 60% of independents blame Trump for rising prices. That is not a number you can spin your way out of. So where does this end up? Here is my honest read. Trump might quietly back down on some of this. Reports are already coming out that he is looking at scaling back certain tariffs because of how badly they are dragging his numbers down. They have started calling it the taco strategy. Trump always chickens out because he makes these massive threats and then walks them back when the heat gets too intense. But he also might double down because that is the other thing he does when he feels cornered. He escalates. He attacks harder. He cranks the volume up to 11 and dares everyone around him to blink first. The truth is that nobody in Washington really knows which version of Trump is going to show up on any given morning. And that uncertainty itself is the problem. Businesses cannot plan. Allies cannot trust us. Congress cannot govern. And the American people are stuck paying higher prices for everything because of a trade policy that most of them did not ask for and do not support. And the guy at the center of all of it, the self-proclaimed greatest dealmaker in the history of the world, just threatened to block a bridge that his own country would benefit from, a bridge that creates jobs in a swing state he won twice and absolutely needs to keep, a bridge that even he once called a vital economic link between two nations. That is where we are. That is the state of the Trump presidency right now. He is not building bridges anymore. He is blocking them, and every single one of us is paying the toll. The Republicans who crossed over to vote against Trump's tariffs are not just doing it for political theater. They are doing it because their constituents are screaming at them. Farmers in Nebraska are watching their export markets dry up. Auto workers in Michigan are watching their supply chains fracture. Small business owners in Colorado are getting surprise tariff bills they cannot afford. And these Republican representatives know that if they do not do something, they are going to lose their seats in November. So they took a stand. A symbolic stand, yes, but a stand nonetheless. And Trump's response was to threaten them, to try to intimidate them, to try to primary them. That is not leadership. That is not governance. That is a tantrum. And the American people are getting tired of it. The Canada situation is not going away. The tariffs are not going away. The uncertainty is not going away. And as long as Trump keeps treating our closest ally like an enemy, the damage is going to keep compounding. The economic damage, the political damage, the diplomatic damage, all of it is real. All of it is measurable. And all of it is happening because one man decided he would rather start a trade war than learn how to negotiate like a normal person.